could introduce yourself.
Oh, sure. I'm Kate Gibson. I'm at Covington and Burling. This relates to something that you didn't talk about, and maybe there's an easy answer, maybe there's not. What happens after Brexit with respect to the UK and their GATS schedule?
Oh, that's a very good question. The EU, well, again, the answer to that question in large part depends on what happens in the negotiations with the EU and whether Brexit and whether the UK continues on the path of separating itself from the European Union. If it does, in a legal sense, and there's no sort of hybrid or attempt to remain part of the EU, then the UK would have to renegotiate its GATS commitments. So there would be a new series of negotiations. For example, its GATS schedules. It would have to renegotiate its GATS schedules. But the only reason I'm qualifying that is it really does, that the nature of that renegotiation really does depend on what it looks like once they finish their negotiations with the EU.
Yes.
With regard to TPP, it's been one of the major concerns of the Congress that TPP, the financial services sector has been excluded from TPP prohibition of localization requirement for data centers. However, U.S. government promised to address that problem in future agreements like TISA you introduced. So could you elaborate the state of play with regard to this issue?
Yes. So you're absolutely right. And what he's talking about, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is the e-commerce chapter includes provisions that require the free flow of data and prohibit the requirement that you place a local server in country. But that's not the case, but it excluded from its coverage financial services. And so in the financial services chapter, there is a provision that requires the free transfer of information, but there's nothing on that prohibits the requirement of a local server in country. And so U.S. industry was very concerned and has felt for a very long time that it really put them at a serious disadvantage because there are foreign countries that are requiring local servers in country. And so what the administration did within the last few months is propose a fix to that, which will prohibit the requirement of a in-country local server requirement as long as regulators have access to the information that they need for their supervisory and regulatory purposes. And what the administration has been doing is it has tabled that provision in the TISA negotiations that I mentioned in July. So it is asking that all TISA parties agree to that new language. It's also done that in TTIP, the TTIP negotiations. And it has also gone to the countries that are not, the TPP countries that are not part of TISA, and asked that they abide by that commitment as well. So it's seeking a comprehensive solution without reopening TPP, but touching all the bases in terms of TISA and then the 4 non-TISA countries.
How financial industries are viewing that development, the positive reactions?
They're very positive about it. They think that what the administration came up with was a very balanced, reasonable fix, and they're encouraged by what the administration is doing to try and put that in place.
Just a very basic question. Why is services so overlooked in regards to manufacturing and security? It seems like such a big story that we are.
You know, I wish I had the answer to that question. That's part of my mission to sort of, well, not even to answer the question, it's just sort of to change the dynamic. You know, I think a lot of it is that services is just taken for granted. I think too, part of it, quite honestly, is certainly some lobbies and sector groups are more active than others, and I think the services sector, for whatever reason, just historically has not been as active or as prominent as the agriculture sector, for example. I think they're trying to be more active now to really tell that story. But I don't think there's a satisfactory answer, at least in my mind, other than it's really overlooked. And its services is just not as tangible, in terms of how you make the case, how you quantify the benefits. So I'm not sure I have a better answer than that.
We have time for perhaps one last question. If there's a burning item in your mind about services, trade services. Please.
You talked about state-owned enterprises and how they're supposed to be treated similarly as other private enterprises. I guess I was curious for the industries like energy, where developing countries have more of a more state-owned enterprise like China and maybe some other African countries. Is it in gas that they put those up, that they made it so that it's clear that they're discriminating, or is it why aren't more claims being brought in the gas for state enterprises in these countries?
Well, if I'm understanding your question correctly, there are no specific rules in gas addressed to state-owned enterprises. There is a provision in the GATT, the General Agreement on Trade, on state trading entities, but nothing in the services area in the WTO. So that's really one of the innovations of the TPP, that there was a chapter on state-owned enterprises. There have been in previous FTAs sort of related provisions. There have been competition chapters and some of the older FTAs, but it really wasn't until TPP that there were actually disciplines imposed on the purchases and sales of state-owned entities, and that they be conducted on a commercial basis. So it will be just with respect to the TPP countries, and for the first time, that you'll have those disciplines in place, but it will only be with respect to the TPP countries. There was some interest in trying to do something in TISA, but it's not clear. That hasn't gotten very far.
So you're seeing as private actors rather than government actors?
It's government actors.
So I would think that's becoming the gas, even though that's specifically national.
Not, it really didn't reach them. Arguably, you can argue that on a national treatment basis, that to the extent there is discrimination, you ought to be able to reach them. But that's been fairly controversial and really untried.
Great. Thank you. Please join me in thanking Christine for